This is Techopolis 3, an all-new 1.21 questing mod pack, and of course the third installment in the Techopolis series. And we actually begin here with a very detailed information tab. It says, welcome to Techopolis 3. Please read all of the quests in this section. They will provide a lot of useful information. So there are multiple world types. I'm going to be playing on the Skyblock version of this mod pack, but you can just as easily play this on a default world type, on a Superflat world type, and even on a Hexlands world type as well, if you so wish. And depending on which world type you play on, there are kind of specific recipes and specific quests that are, again, specific to whatever world type it is that you're playing on. For us, we are looking for the Sky tag because those are the Skyblock recipes. Villagers and wandering traders are disabled. Custom machinery is at the heart of Techopolis 3, including a lot of multi-block machines as well as simple machines. Machines that require a multi-block will show an icon in JEI to view the structure in the world, and most structures can share frames. That will become more apparent as to what that means as we get further on into the pack and start building some of the multi-block machines that this pack requires. We do have FTB Ultimine in the pack. However, unlike other packs where you just have it from the get-go, in this pack, we have to get, I believe it is a trinket that's going to allow us to activate and use the Ultimine ability, which for those who don't know is the ability that lets you break all of the blocks of the same type in like one go. We also have no ores in the world, which obviously makes sense for a Skyblock world, but I believe that's also the case in like the Superflat and regular worlds. This one is key. Research is an important part of Techopolis 3. So the way this works, if we open the tab on the left here, there are 4 different tiers of research: basic, advanced, elite, and ultimate, and each one of those tiers is tied to a different version of Technium. And those tiers are, of course, basic, advanced, elite, ultimate, and there are a few more as well that we'll get to in the really late game. But essentially, the goal of this pack is to automate the production of these different key tiers of Technium. Once we have those automated, we can then use them to unlock new things. And so not everything in this pack is unlocked right from the get-go. For example, here, you might be familiar with the storage drawer mod. Storage drawers are not immediately available in this pack. First, to get them, we have to do the draw research, which involves making this draw blueprint, which is made using a bunch of basic Technium nuggets. And so essentially the different tiers of Technium act as progression gates to all of the different research that we can do as we progress through. And as we progress through, we're going to unlock more mods and more quality of life improvements that are going to make things easier for us as we go forward. Back over in here, the mobs do not spawn, so we can continue building safely in the knowledge that we're not going to have all of our work destroyed by a creeper. There is an option for dark mode. For that, you press E, and then in the bottom left, you can actually turn dark mode on like this. There's a few options, including toasted light mode. I'll go for less perfect dark because I have had people mention in the YouTube comments that it's actually quite nice to have dark mode enabled there for watching the video. There is a guidebook for Techopolis 3. We'll come back to that in the future. And then finally, there are shaders if we so wish to use them. But for our purposes here, the first questline that we actually want to start with is this basic dirt questline here. It begins right here with a quest that I believe just wants us to observe a grass block. Look at that, we've done it. And as a reward, we get a tech book, we get a reward choice of a bunch of different saplings. So you may have noticed that in this pack, we do start on a kind of regular Skyblock platform, but one that has a cyan tree. So I believe that this is random, so your tree might be a different color, but if we don't want to use exclusively cyan logs going forward, we can pick really any sapling from the list here. I am going to take dark oak saplings, and I'm also going to take maybe white saplings. I think we could get something nice going if we use both dark oak and white saplings for a little bit of contrast there. Of course, right here, if I hold my Ultimine key, it says that I need the excavation skill to perform this. However, by default in this pack, you can cut down a whole tree if you have, I believe, any kind of axe. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, up here, we do have a resource curio that we need to make if you're playing on the Superflat or Skyblock version of the pack. And if we check in JEI here and type in resource curio, this right here is what we need to make. Thankfully, it is super easy to make. It is just one piece of dirt. And so if I pick this up and craft it, we get our resource courier. The courier slot can be opened by pressing the button next to your player head right here. And then you can put this into any one of these charm slots. And we now get the additional drops from, I believe, breaking dirt, if I'm not mistaken. We do. Look at that. So you get the dirt back, but now that we have the resource courier, we also get rocks, and I believe we're also going to get twigs as well. And by the looks of it, we're also going to get some bone meal as well, which I'm assuming is going to be quite useful for us going forward. These rocks here can be used to craft up cobblestone, and initially I thought it was going to be a recipe like this, but I think it's actually just rocks equal cobblestone, which makes it much easier for us to get cobblestone right off the bat here. The twigs here are found while breaking dirt, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break a few more pieces of grass, and if we quickly throw these down and break them, ideally before they turn into grass, we should hopefully get some twigs as well. And we did. Nice. Now these, I believe, can also be crafted directly into sticks. They totally can. And in this pack, if we craft together 4 sticks, we can get 1 log. And so real quick, let me break a lot more of these dirt blocks to see if we can't get enough sticks to make a crafting table. Also, we could, if we wanted to, tear down this tree right here. We are not going to be able to tear it down all at once, but of course we can just go ahead and break the bottom log, craft that into some cyan planks, and craft that into a fairly nifty looking cyan crafting table. Now that we have that, we should be able to make our first tools. For example, we can get a regular stone axe, and as I mentioned before, if we break the bottom log of the tree, it does go ahead and break all of the logs on the tree simultaneously, which is actually quite useful, especially given that we don't have that Ultimine Courier just yet. You do have to hold whatever item it is you're wanting to complete a quest for in your inventory. What I did earlier is I crafted the log into planks and then took the planks and immediately crafted them into a crafting table without putting the planks in my inventory. And so we didn't complete this quest, which meant that this quest here wasn't available for completion. So we do have to pick this up again to complete the quest. But now that that is done, we can claim all of our tech books. And in fact, in the top right-hand corner behind this quest completion thing, there is a button that says click to collect all rewards. And if we click that, it will just give us all of the tech books that we get for all of the rewards. We are going to be able to spend these later in the pack in the catalog, which hopefully shouldn't take us too long to get. Now, looking at the quests, one of the first quests that I would like to get to is this quest right here for the stone excavator, because this is going to allow us to mine a 3x3 area of dirt, making it much easier and quicker for us to actually harvest and get a lot of the stones and sticks that we're going to need to progress forward. To do that, we can take all of our cobblestone, craft that into some compressed cobblestone, and if we look at the recipe for the excavator here, this is made fairly easily with 2 sticks, which we can of course make, boom boom, and 1 compressed cobblestone. Nice. And so with this, what we should be able to do, again, we have done these in the wrong order. Let me do a quick one of these. That's going to get me a tech book, and let me do another one of these, which is actually good because I believe that the recipe for the hammer here also requires more compressed cobblestone. In fact, it does require 3 compressed cobblestone in total, which thankfully is something we can do. And so let's craft up one of these. We'll come back to the stone hammer in a second. The excavator is super useful in that it allows us to break a 3x3 area of dirt all at once. And so if we were to throw down 9 dirt like this and then break all of that dirt with the excavator, we get a lot more of the sticks and the rocks at once. And if I'm not mistaken, there is an even faster way, asterisk, of getting those resources with the excavator, because you can actually just right click the dirt with the excavator and it will immediately turn that dirt into the resources as if you had mined it with the resource courier. Now, I think if you're going to do all 3 like this, I think it is faster to break all 9 with the excavator as opposed to right-clicking 9 times like this on each and every one of the blocks. But if you're only doing 1 or 2 blocks, it is definitely faster to just use the right-click method. So now that we have the excavator and the stone hammer and compressed cobblestone, we do have the ability to make a regular old furnace, and it is getting a little bit dark here, so I'm probably going to start by smelting some of these cyan logs to get us some torches, which is of course also a quest, and we should also have the ability to make the catalog now as well if we can craft 8 stone around 1 tech book. And so it's actually probably well worth us here making at least 1 or 2 more furnaces, and it's also probably going to be in our best interest to do a little bit of tree farming as well to allow us to get some more fuel for these furnaces. Real quick though, let's do something like this to get some torches, which we can place down like so. And let's also spread that cobblestone down to this furnace to hopefully get the 8 stone required for the catalog just that little bit faster. While we wait for that, the recipes over here allow us to get both gravel and sand, and these are done by right-clicking onto cobblestone with the stone hammer that we just made. And so if I were to place down some stone, we can then right-click with the stone hammer to turn that cobblestone into gravel, and then from there we can do the exact same thing with gravel to get sand. Nice! That does use up the durability of the stone hammer, but it does mean we can get both gravel and sand pretty quickly. Unlike with the excavator, I don't believe it works the other way around. I don't think that hammering this the normal way actually gets you anything. It doesn't, unfortunately, but that is fine. So real quick, let me do a little bit of potentially dark oak farming here. The only trouble with the dark oak sapling is that it is pretty big, and there's a good chance that some of the logs and saplings are going to fall off the edge, so we could actually do with making this platform a little bit bigger before we try and grow this. Speaking of growing it, right at the top of the quest line here, there is also a quest for the sapling grower. This is a super nifty, and some might say overpowered item that allows us to instantly grow trees. To craft it, we just need 2 sticks and a bone meal, and once we have it, we can throw down, for example, our white sapling here if we wanted to, like so, right-click with the sapling grower, and boom, we have a full tree, which of course we can then go ahead and chop down with our axe. And I do want to check real quick if we have a crook in the pack. We do indeed, and if I'm not mistaken, that crook should increase our chances of getting saplings from the leaves here. Of course, again, without Ultimine, we are going to have to break these all individually, but this should give us a lot more white saplings that we can use going forward than we would normally get if we just broke the tree using the axe. Like this. Cool. So now that we have some more logs, actually, let me do something like this and like this. We just need 2 more stone to be able to make the catalog. There is also a quest I see to make a regular chest, which is probably a good thing for us to have right about now, so we can start dumping some of our excess wares into it. And once we have the 8th stone here, we can do something like this and like this to get the catalog. And the catalog is where we are going to be able to spend our tech books. So if we put the tech books in, it's going to show us the things that we can buy with the current amount of tech books. I do believe that there are more things to buy than we might currently be able to see. For example, we only have 15 tech books. If I press U while hovering over those, we can go to the catalog tab, and this shows us a full inventory of what you can buy. For example here, the building gadget from the building gadgets mod is purchasable with 16 tech books, but that's not going to show up in our list here because we don't yet have that many tech books. But we can, for example, buy really any of the saplings that we saw earlier. We could even buy dark oak saplings, so it's not the end of the world if we do lose the first set that we get. And there's also some food and even a catalog book, which I believe allows us to use the tech books to buy from the catalog book kind of wherever we are in our very big sprawling base here, as opposed to having to use the catalog block. For now, though, I'm going to leave that because I don't necessarily know what it is that we need to purchase just yet. There is also a quest down here, actually, to craft charcoal into tiny charcoal. This is super nifty because it allows you to essentially make your charcoal more efficient because you're only going to burn as much as is needed to smelt any one item. You'll see the mini charcoal only smelts 1 item, and so it only burns 1 at a time, as opposed to the regular charcoal, where if you go ahead and put this in to smelt, say, 1 stone, you're going to waste 7 of the smelts that you didn't need to waste if you'd have crafted it into mini charcoal first. Either way, what I am going to do here is I'm going to quickly make this platform a little bit bigger, and then once we have a bigger platform, I'm going to grow some dark oak and white saplings to see about making this platform larger still, and hopefully make it look a little bit nicer. Before I do that, what I might do here is I might take my excavator, because I do kind of want to keep as much of the dirt as possible. We do have to be careful here, but I believe I should be able to do this. I can. And we do have a nifty mod installed that allows us to place blocks underneath the block that we're stood on. So for example, right here, you'll see that if I point my cursor right underneath like this, you'll get these 2 arrows pointing down, and that allows you to right click and place down a block underneath the block you're stood on. And of course, if we do that kind of all the way around, we should be able to harvest all of the dirt that's on the bottom level for use in the future. So if I do something like this And like this, I can then harvest this dirt right here, like that, or at least some of that dirt, and then go ahead and place down even more cobblestone under the rest of it, and ideally harvest kind of all the dirt that we have here. So I've got most of the dirt. I'm going to leave this little section of dirt here just in case we do need grass at some point in the not so distant future. Real quick though, I do believe that in this version of Minecraft, instead of having building ones, we have construction sticks, which essentially do the same thing, but they are sticks and not ones. And so if we were to get 3 sticks here, we can craft those into one stickiest stick, and the stickiest stick allows us to more easily place down some of these blocks. So if I were to kind of go like this, I can put down 3 stone at a time, which is just a little bit faster than trying to put down 1 cobblestone at a time. And going forward, we can get higher tiers, like the copper stick, the iron stick, the diamond stick, and the netherite stick that allow us to put down up to 1,024 blocks at once, which is going to make building much, much easier going forward. For now though, I'm going to go ahead and do some tree farming, of course utilizing our sapling grower to immediately grow the sapling, and then using our stone axe to hopefully tear the entire tree down at once. Alright, so not too long later, and we now have a much larger 15 by 15 platform with some dark oak planks and some white planks from our white logs here. Unfortunately, we don't have any chisel-esque mods in the pack, so we can't really tweak the way these look, and so this is going to have to do for the time being. The Twitch chat has pointed out, however, that we should be able to get some wheat seeds and use those in the future to get more grass if we need it. You can see right here that right-clicking a wheat seed onto dirt actually turns it into a grass block. And so my thought process here is that I'm going to go ahead and kind of move everything that's currently on this platform down to the new platform. Then we're going to use some bone meal up here to try and acquire some wheat seeds, and you can see me there kind of instinctively pressing the ultimine key to try and get ultimine. And as soon as we have at least 1 wheat seed, I mean ideally maybe more than 1 wheat seed just in case we lose one or use one, but as soon as we have some wheat seeds, we should then be able to fairly safely break this grass, because then going forward we can just use that wheat seed on some dirt in the future to get more grass if and when we need it. And again, not too long later, we now have all of our stuff, including 1 extra chest down here on our platform with much more space to progress forward into the pack. So I think that we now probably want to work over onto the left side here. There are quite a few wooden contraptions that we can make, including some wooden shears, super easy, just 2 planks. There's a wooden gear recipe here that is 4 planks and 4 sticks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And then from there is also a wooden hopper recipe, which is the standard hopper recipe, but with wood instead of iron, and a wooden gear instead of a chest. Nice. I believe this works in the exact same way as a regular hopper, just much more slowly. Now that we have that, we should be able to throw down a tree. I'm going to go with the white saplings here, just because the dark oak trees are very, very tall. In fact, we can do something like this if we want to get multiple white logs, like that. And then we can use the wooden shears to harvest these leaves, and I believe the idea here is that we're going to use these leaves to make string. So we can start by crafting the leaves into leafy string, like this, and then we can craft that leafy string into green wool. That green wool can then be used to make a bed, and that is going to allow us to sleep through the night. Not that we necessarily need to be able to sleep through the night. It might be more useful just as a way of setting our spawn point, because of course there are no mobs spawning in this pack, so we're not really too worried, or as worried as we normally would be, about the night falling. But real quick, I will go ahead and shear a few more of these leaves so we can get the 2 more green wool required to make that bed. Boom, boom, and boom. Nice. And we can throw that down right about there for now. Cool. That is, I think, the first quest line almost entirely completed. There are a couple of tick box quests up here that we can go ahead and tick, including the one for the sapling grower, and including this one telling us how we can get the oak sapling. And then the final quest that we have not yet completed is this one right here for the stone cutter, which is just 3 cobblestone. We can make more cobblestone, of course, with our rocks, and 1 pickaxe, which we do already have. Can I use this pickaxe? I totally can. Nice. So we'll throw that down as well. And that, of course, does complete that chapter of the quest book. And this stone cutter here does also allow us to get some other kinds of stone that we can use later as well to kind of further decorate the base that we have currently. And now we can move on to the Hot Stone questline here. And this is where we actually get into some modded stuff. So to start with, we do need to get some more stone. We also need to get some smooth stone, which we can of course get by just smelting regular stone. And then we can use those to craft stone sticks, stone gears, and floppers, which are like wooden hoppers, but for fluids. And then from there, we've got a couple of machines that we're going to unlock. The cloche and the ambient water collector. Both of those are going to require a simple machine frame, which is made with wooden gears, stone gears, and planks. And so I think what I am going to do then is grab a bunch more planks, divvy those up between our furnaces, and just see about getting a lot more cobblestone smelting. Of course, we don't actually have that much cobblestone, but we do have a ton of dirt, and using the stickiest stick here, we can actually get a lot of cobblestone very quickly, because of course we can just place down all 9 dirt, break it with the excavator, and in doing so we get like a bunch of stone. So I'll do that a couple of times. I'll tear down this tree maybe a few more times as well to get some more fuel, and we'll smelt just a ton of stone and smooth stone so we can craft a bunch of the stone gears and machine frames required to progress forward here. So in the Twitch chat, I have just been informed that if you place the dirt in your offhand, we actually can use what I believe this quest down here was trying to insinuate. We can get faster resources, because what we can do is we can hold the dirt in our offhand, hold the excavator in our main hand, and then if we just right click, it actually gives us a bunch of resources like that. We don't have to continually place down all of the dirt with the sticks, because we kind of pick up some of the dirt. You'll see it is going down in our offhand there, but for the most part, that does work quite well. And in fact here, if you can right click very, very fast, like this, you can actually burn through the entire stack very quickly and get a very, very large amount of all of the resources that we would normally get very slowly if we were just using the old method with the stickiest stick. That looks like it should be more than enough cobblestone. Over here, I have placed down one more furnace, and so we have 2 making stone and 2 making smooth stone. But before I do any more stone to smooth stone smelting, I do want to first see actually how much stone and smooth stone we need. So we do need to use some of the smooth stone to make these stone rods, and then from there, we do of course need the stone gear, which much like the wooden gear is made with stone sticks and regular stone. We are also going to need some more regular planks as well, and by the looks of it, some more sticks, so we'll craft a bunch of those. We'll get ourselves a couple more of these wooden gears. I'm going to make quite a few of these just so we're not manually making them every single time, like individually. I'll also do the same here with this, actually. I'll make a few more of these and craft up just a bunch of stone gears, again, just so that we have them ready to go. We can also do something like this, and we can do something like this to get even more stone and smooth stone smelting. Of course, we'll claim all of these rewards, and I'm kind of assuming that the cloche here is going to allow us to automate the growing of saplings, which would also be tremendously useful. So as we saw earlier, for that, we do need a simple machine frame, which looks something like this with the stone gear in the middle. Boom. And I guess we do want to make at least one more of those because we've got all the resources for it, and we know we're going to need both the cloche and the ambient water collector. And then as far as the cloche is concerned, this is just a simple machine frame with 6 smooth stone, which hopefully we are pretty close to getting. I will go ahead and swap this out for smooth stone as well now, because we already have 2 furnaces working on regular stone. And as soon as we get just one more piece of smooth stone, we can make our first cloche. Now, I don't know if this machine requires any kind of power to function. Let's have a look. It does require a soil. It also requires a sapling. I'm going to go ahead and throw in my dark oak sapling, which I'm hoping is going to work just fine, like so. And it looks like that totally just works. We have an on-off button, and what looks like the time it takes, it's going to take 1,200, I assume, ticks to complete. There are 20 ticks per second in Minecraft, which means this is going to take 60 seconds to complete each cycle. And I'm assuming that we have a percentage chance to get different outcomes. We do. So we're guaranteed to get 2 logs. We have a 20% chance to get a sapling, a 20% chance to get an apple, a 10% chance to get a stick, and then a 100% chance to get 2 leaves. My real question is, does it move the sapling over or use the sapling? And the good news is that it doesn't, which actually makes this very powerful, because we can essentially now just leave this here indefinitely, and it's going to passively make logs, sticks, apples, saplings, and leaves for us indefinitely, which is great. And so now, back over here, we can focus on trying to get this ambient water collector. To do that, we do first have to make 2 floppers, which require even more smooth stone. which we thankfully do have, as well as even more of these stone gears. So if we were to do something like this, we can make 2 floppers, and then from there, we just need 1 more smooth stone to make the ambient water collector. Boom, and boom. Nice. So quite a few of the blocks here do have this little hold G to open guide. And so if you hold G while hovering over the block, it takes you directly into what I believe is the Techopolis 3 guidebook. So you can also just open this and kind of look through here at the various different tabs about all of the different stuff in the pack. But if you want to learn something specific like the ambient water collector, you can just hold G and it tells us a simple water collector that creates 1 millibucket of water per tick. And so if I'm not mistaken, this I don't think requires any water. I don't think it needs to be near water, like an aqueous accumulator or anything like that. I think you can just place it down and it will just passively generate 1 millibucket of water per tick, which is 20 millibuckets per second. You need 1,000 millibuckets to get 1 bucket of water, and so it's going to take just under a minute, approximately 50 seconds, to get us our first bucket of water. And of course, after 100 seconds, we'll have 2 buckets of water, which should allow us to make, I think, an unlimited water source, unless that has been tweaked in some way, shape, or form. Down here, we have a wooden mesh, and of course the intro into the strainers. So the wooden mesh looked pretty straightforward there. It's just 8 sticks crafted in a ring, and then from there we can use that wooden mesh to make a strainer. We just need 1 more wooden mesh, as well as 1 more of those machine frames that we made a moment ago. So for that, we are thankfully just missing more wooden gears and planks. I say thankfully because those are by far and away the easiest bits to craft. They don't require any smelting. And so if we get a few more sticks, we can make a few more wooden gears. And we can make another machine frame. Boom and boom. Nice. So if I'm not mistaken, the strainer here does require that the top part of the strainer be submerged in water. So generally, the way that these work is we place the strainer mesh. Let's make another one of those because we just used our first 2 making the strainer. This is going to go in the mesh slot right here. We're then going to put a liquid, I'm assuming water to begin with, on top of this strainer, so where the mesh is, and then we can use the strainer to strain certain items into certain outputs. For example, if we want to get clear here, we can strain dirt with water above it, and that has a 100% chance over 11 seconds, or 220 ticks, to get us clear. Now, to do that, we do actually have to get some water down in the world. I believe that if we check here, it does tell us that placing a flopper below a water collector will pull out the water inside once there is a bucket's worth of fluid. So we've kind of done this in a bit of an awkward manner because we could do with having the water collector kind of over here. What I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and break that water collector. It does mean we're going to have to wait another 50 seconds to get our bucket of water, but I think that's preferable to trying to put the strainer kind of in the ground next to the pre-existing water collector. Essentially, what I think we should be able to do here, if we grab some cobblestone slabs, we should be able to place these down like this. I'm doing this just so that we can put the water in the middle without having it flow out everywhere. Then what I will do, actually, let me put that back there because I would like to, first of all, make another flopper, which is going to require some of that smooth stone. Thankfully, we have enough ready to go. Another flopper should be fairly straightforward just as soon as we craft 1 more stone gear. Boom. And boom. Cool. This I want to place up against that center cobblestone slab. So I'm going to get rid of this slab, shift right click onto here. That's going to place the water right here where this stone slab is, I think. And then we're going to get rid of the flopper once it's placed the water down. Back over here, we can break the ambient water collector, place that down right about here. That should start to fill the flopper up with water. And approximately 50 seconds from now, once we have a full bucket's worth of water, I believe it's going to go ahead and place that water down right here above the strainer block. Look at that. It totally works. Nice. And so now we should be able to kind of get rid of the flopper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a slab there. I'm then going to break the flopper and then put another slab down like that. We can then get rid of this slab here. And now that gives us the water directly above the strainer. Just to prepare, I'm going to go ahead and kind of do the exact same thing right next to it here because I do want to get another water source block down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of... Actually, I think at this point we can probably fairly safely replace the ambient water collector here because, as we just saw, we're going to get clay from the straining of dirt. And looking at the quest book, we're then going to use that clay to get our first ceramic bucket, which I believe is going to allow me to take the water out of the ambient water collector and place it wherever we need, so we don't really have to worry about using the flopper to place the water in the world in the future. And look at that, we do get clay, and we also actually get some wheat seeds as well, which is pretty nifty. In fact, if we press U on the dirt and go over to the strainer, we can see that we get some rocks, some wheat seeds, some clay balls, and some twigs. So kind of all of the stuff that we were already getting, along with a 100% chance to get clay. And of course, as we mentioned just a second ago, we should be able to use that clay to make an unfired clay bucket. And from there, we should be able to fire that clay bucket in our furnace to get a ceramic bucket that is actually going to allow us to move liquids around. And so now, presumably we have another bucket in here. We do indeed. We can take that bucket of water out of the ambient water collector and place it right about here, like so. Whoops. Like so that if we wanted to place down another strainer in the future, we could just remove this cobblestone, place that strainer down, and get straining right away. From there, it looks like we need even more clay to make some bricks and to make a brick furnace. And after that, it also looks like we're going to get into some mechanism as well with the configurator and some basic pipes, which is going to make automation a fair bit easier going forward. Because, of course, right now, we're not actually generating any dirt. In fact, it looks like if we want to make dirt, we might need to use leaves here. A second ago, I did say that we were getting leaves from the cloche, but the Twitch chat has pointed out that we actually don't get leaves from the cloche unless we have a shear upgrade, which currently we do not have. Now, I'm assuming, indeed, that there is a quest up here for that shear upgrade. To make it, we first need to get an upgrade base, which is 8 smooth stone and 1 stone gear. I do not have enough smooth stone to make that happen, and we're also kind of completely out of fuel here as well. I could probably do with maybe getting another furnace, and instead of using, I will do that because I do want bricks actually. Instead of using planks, we could maybe do with getting charcoal and using the tiny charcoal, because I think it's going to be a lot more fuel efficient than what we're currently trying to do. Alright, so a few more furnaces later and a lot more tiny charcoal, we should be able to kind of leave this for a lot longer without having to micromanage the fuel quite so much. And back over here, we should be able to make this upgrade base. For that, we do need some regular stone. It's not all smooth stone all the time. Boom, and boom, that gets us a stone gear. I'll make 2 of those, and then from there we should be able to make our upgrade base. And if we wanted to upgrade that to the shear upgrade, we just need 4 wooden shears, which is actually very nice. I am wondering if, like earlier, we can use the broken wooden shears to make this work. We totally can, which is nice. It gets us extra value out of our already used shears. And now if we place this into the cloche, we are going to get a guaranteed 2 dark oak leaves for every cycle here, which is going to allow us in the future to make more dirt, because you'll see here we have already burned through the like half stack of dirt that we placed into there, and so that's going to allow us to hopefully get even more going forward. It might be well worth making quite a few of these cloches to massively increase the speed at which we get leaves. Of course, we can use the shears to manually get leaves if we really needed more dirt, but it would be nice to have that automated for the future. For now, though, we can claim this, and we can claim this. In fact, there is a fixed speed upgrade that we can make right away here. To make that first fixed speed upgrade, we just need 4 stone gears and 1 more upgrade base, which is just going to be more stone and more smooth stone. Boom, and boom. Nice. It's not a massive upgrade. It says here, reduces the duration of a recipe by 200 ticks. Percentage effects happen before fixed effects. So if we place that in here, it's going to take us down to 1,000 ticks instead of 1,200 ticks, which essentially takes us down from 60 seconds to 50 seconds on the cycle here. But that is still an improvement nonetheless, and it does allow us to do this recipe for crafting dirt going forward. Nice. So now, further down here, we should be able to take some of the clay, we've got almost a stack here, from our strainer and use that to make quite a few more bricks. And as soon as we have 8 bricks, we should be able to make the brick furnace. From there, we can upgrade to the blast brick furnace, and from there, we can make some regular glass. It does look like in this pack, glass does have to be made in a blast furnace. Of course, to get the glass, we are going to have to first get potentially some more sand, so it could well be worth putting down a bunch of cobblestone here, and of course using our hammer to turn all of that into gravel, and then using it again to turn all of that into sand. Cool. Back over here, I'm assuming we have at least 8 brick. We do indeed. That gets us a regular brick furnace. Once we have enough brick, we should be able to craft all of those into bricks. That should complete that quest, and then we should be able to craft our first brick furnace, which I guess I'm going to go ahead and place down maybe over here for now, and fill up ideally with some more mini charcoal, and with that we should be able to start smelting our sand into glass, and that looks like it's going to unlock kind of all of the mechanism items here. The basic mechanical pipe is able to move fluids, the logistical transporter is able to move items, the fluid tank, of course, can hold fluids, and the configurator is used to configure the item and fluid pipes that we mentioned previously. Now, I do see that we have unlocked the next tier of questline as well here, called Melting. This has a first quest for grout, which is a mix of sand, gravel, and clay. And so I think what we'll do, we'll leave this clay smelting into bricks, because it's quite possible we're going to need even more bricks going forward, potentially even more blast furnaces as well. I'm also going to place some more dirt into here. As we've seen, dirt is fairly easy for us to make more of, so I'm going to use that to get more clay, because we're going to need that for the grout here. And while I wait for all of this to process, I'm going to do a fair bit of processing of all of our cobblestone into gravel and sand using the stone hammer. Just like with the dirt before it, you can indeed just hold down right click with the cobblestone in the offhand, and that will go ahead and do that much, much faster. And again, just like before as well, if you can right click very quickly, you can do something like this, and you get a lot of sand and gravel very, very fast indeed. Enough, in fact, to do this, this, and this, and make a bunch of grout. I was going to click it there and just take all of the grout, but I don't know if we're going to need quite that much, and I don't want to use all of our clay because we do not have that much of it left at the moment. Instead, let's take this grout and let's start smelting that. Again, this does have to be done in the blast furnace. Thankfully, the blast furnace is a fair bit faster than the regular furnace, so I'm hopeful that that won't take too long to process all of those blast bricks. And from there, we have a fluid mover, which I'm assuming is going to be useful for moving fluids kind of out of what looks like a pseudo Tinker's Construct smeltery that we're going to make here, but not from Tinker's Construct. I guess we'll find out fairly soon. Once we have 4 of these black bricks, we can craft those into the black bricks, and with that, we can make a solidifier, a controller, and a fluid tank. So how does this work? The controller is just a ring of bricks, the solidifier is bricks with brick, and then the fuel tank is more bricks and stained glass. And so I do think it is probably going to be worth making another blast furnace here, and that's going to double up our speed here on smelting this grout into black brick. And from there, we can, of course, make this guy right away, the fuel tank, super easy to make. We also need a ceramic hot water bucket. I know hot water is such a lame fuel, but here we are. Other fuels can be found in normal worlds, such as lava. So for us, we actually just have to smelt a bucket of water to get hot water as our first fuel source. Okay, that is interesting. Let me get rid of the grout temporarily, and let's smelt that up. Let's also do some more crafting here, although it's going to take us a while to get enough black bricks, because we need quite a few to make the controller and the solidifier. All right, so a little bit more dirt creation, dirt sifting, and grout smelting later. We should be able to craft up 2 more of these, and then on top of that, 8 more of these as well. So we need 8 to make the controller, and then we need the 6 here to make the solidifier. And then just like before, we can hold G to open the guide, and here it's going to tell us how to get started. So the controller is the heart of casting. This is where the melting of resources happens. The controller requires a fuel tank adjacent to it to melt items. The controller can store up to 4 different unique fluids inside of it. So we have to throw down our controller. Let's put that down for now right about here. It needs a fuel tank next to it. I'm assuming that the hot water is going to go into the fuel tank, and then in here, I wonder if we can actually just start to smelt. Molten coal can be obtained when melting charcoal, mini coal, or charcoal dust. So if I were to take some of the mini charcoal and place that into here, is that going to start melting? It looks like it totally is. I do wonder if we can smelt multiple items at once. So that totally works. We've got 10 millibuckets of molten coal. If I do this, that does smelt multiple items at once. I'm assuming it's going to use proportionally more fuel. So it used 25 millibuckets last time. I'm assuming it's going to use 125 millibuckets this time. It did. And of course, we got even more molten coal as well. Cool. So I'm not quite sure what the solidifier is going to be used for here. Used to turn molten items into fluids, I see. So I wonder if we have to place this down on the other side here. That gives it access to the molten coal, and then I'm assuming that we can use one of these molds to actually turn that molten coal into, for example, a coal gear. Yes, so we would need 320 millibuckets of molten coal. Let me put in like all of the rest of this here, like that, to get a bunch of molten coal cooking. And then from there, to make the gear mold, we need any gear surrounded by black bricks. Does that work with the wooden gear? It totally does. Nice. So we can just whack that into the solidifier, and as soon as we get 320 millibuckets of molten charcoal, I do wonder if this uses the same amount of fuel. I wonder if it was a bad idea to smelt the tiny coal. Does this use 25 millibuckets, or does it use 9 times as much hot water? It also uses 25 millibuckets, so it's definitely more worthwhile to put in the full charcoal as opposed to using the mini charcoal, because it's way less fuel efficient. Not that the hot water is particularly difficult for us to get, of course. We can get basically an unlimited amount of it at this point because we're making even more of it with the ambient water collector. But we are now on our way to our first coal gear, and it also looks like in this pack, if we want to make a block of coal, we can use 720 millibuckets. Is this more efficient? It doesn't look more efficient, but it does also look like it might be the only way that we can get a block of coal, because we don't actually have regular coal just yet. You can't craft 9 charcoal into a block of coal, but I'm assuming that what we can do is we can take some of the tiny charcoal that we have, I guess, out of here, recraft that back up into regular charcoal, and if we have 9 regular charcoal, we can then smelt that in here, make sure we take out the gear mold first, drop all 9 of those in, divide them up so they smelt faster, grab our hot water to make sure we have enough fuel to do it, and then as far as the block mold is concerned, it is just 8 of these black bricks, which we do have. Boom, and boom. That should get us a block of coal, which we can then decraft down into regular coal, and from there we can use that regular coal to make coke brick. So the reason we're working our way through all of this, by the way, is because we are, of course, working to the first tier of Technium. That's the basic Technium here. And to make basic Technium, we need stone gears, which we have, blast bricks, which we have, copper rods and copper ingots, which we don't yet have, mini coal, which we are about to get by the crafting of coal, glass, which we have, flint, which we don't have, but I'm assuming we're going to be able to get soon via this rock washer, and our gravel. We then need leather and treated wooden planks. The treated wooden planks here are required through the coke oven, because the coke oven is going to give us creosote, which we can then use to craft those treated planks. Right here, we can craft regular coal, and then we can also craft mini coal in the exact same way that we crafted the mini charcoal. And to get down here, we do first have to make a sturdy machine frame, which is going to use those coal gears that we got a second ago. And from there, we can make our first basic miner. And I think this is actually going to be huge, because it's going to allow us to automate the production of cobblestone, stone, sand, gravel, clay, and grout, all of which we are able to get at the moment, but all of which are a little bit finicky for us to get, or take a little bit of work for us to get, I should say. So let's see here if we can't make this happen. I'm going to get another couple of wooden gears, just so we have them. From there, if we want stone gears, we do need to make some more of the stone rods. That should be enough to get 2 more of these, which should be enough to get our first sturdy machine frame. And then from there, the basic miner requires another stone hammer, which is way more cobblestone, which we actually don't have, but of course can get fairly easily using the excavator. And then we also need to get a bunch of pickaxes as well, which of course is even more cobblestone. So let me go ahead and I guess take the little bit of dirt that we do have left in here, which is actually just 3, and process that down. We do have more leaves coming in, of course, and so we can do something like this, and then from there we can, of course, do something like this. It is a little bit faster if we have more dirt than less dirt, and the chat is right that if we wanted to, we could do something like this, where we craft our dirt with the gravel. That gets us coarse dirt, and then if you place the coarse dirt down, you can then use a hoe to turn that into regular dirt. That, I think, is probably a slightly faster way of getting more dirt than using either the shear method or just waiting for our sapling grower cloche in the corner there. It is a little slower just because we don't have Ultimine installed, so we can't do all of this at once, but if we just go ahead and hoe all of these, we've effectively turned like 4 dirt into way more dirt, and of course we can then just go ahead and break those, getting even more cobblestone in the process. And a fair bit more cobblestone later, we should have everything that we need to make the basic miner. We do. Nice. With this, if we press G, it says miners are basic structures that allow for mining of specific resources. Miners come in different tiers. Each tier increases the output amount of the miners. So we get 2x with an advanced miner, 4x with an elite miner, and 8 times as many outputs with an ultimate miner. That is true for everything apart from cobblestone. It looks like for cobblestone, you get twice as much. So you get 16x, 8x, 4x, and 2x. There are 6 different miner places. Using these on any tier of miner will place the required structure for the miner. Cool. And then we do need wooden scaffolding, which is more wooden gears and sticks. Does it tell me in here how many items we need, like how many wooden scaffolding we need? I don't think that it does, but it looks like we need 16 plus 12, so 28 wooden scaffolding. And then by the looks of it, like a 3x3x4, so like 9 multiplied by 4, so 36 cobblestone as well. That should be fine. Let me grab some more of our wood here, and let's see if we can't make some of that scaffolding. So for that, we're going to need a bunch more sticks to make a bunch more gears. Once we have at least 28 wooden scaffolding, we then just need the required amount of whatever item it is we want to actually produce. So I guess we'll do cobblestone first, just because we have enough cobblestone for it here. And it looks like there are places for each and every one of these. So I think this might have to be purchased from the catalog. If I type in placer, there are different places for different resources here. So I want a miner placer. Specifically, I think I want a cobblestone miner placer. It does cost 12 tech bucks, which seems pretty expensive, honestly, especially considering it looks like all we need to do. And I think we'll move this in a second because I don't like that it's just going to be placed in the middle of the platform. We might have to build a new platform to house all of these miners because we are going to put down, I think, quite a few of these miners going forward. But it looks like we put down a 3x3x4 like this, so 3 wide, 3 deep, and then 4 tall like that. We then take our wooden scaffolding and we kind of go up like this. It looks like it goes kind of around in this direction. We can always refer back to the guide in just a second. That there is not correct. Thankfully, we do have at least 1 durability left on our hatchet. Boom. And then we'll do the same on the other corners. So it turns out I did need a little bit more. I've crafted 9 more here. I think that's close to correct, and it is. Nice. So that looks almost perfect. All we need to do now is take our basic miner, place that down at the front, and it's running. Nice. If it's not fully built, so for example, if I got rid of like a scaffolding here, you'll see that it says errored. It's not actually fully built, but if we put the scaffolding down and you built it correctly, it just starts producing cobblestone, which is super useful. And of course, we could do the exact same thing here for stone, sand, gravel, clay, and grout. And I do think it is going to be in our best interest to do those. And so real quick, what I think I'm going to do now is probably extend this platform out quite a bit because having 5 of these big multi-block structures is going to take up so much more space. We're also going to have to do a bunch more tree farming to get all of the wood required to make all of the wooden scaffolding for all of the miners. Getting the stone shouldn't be too difficult. We've already got a fair bit of stone. We've got more than enough to actually get the miner going. The same is kind of true for sand and gravel. We can easily turn all of our cobblestone into gravel and then into sand, so that shouldn't be too difficult. The clay and the grout are definitely going to be much more difficult. I will start processing more dirt in the strainer here to see how much clay we can get. Whether or not we're going to be able to get all 36 blocks of clay or all 36 blocks of grout to get these miners going this episode is yet to be seen, but we'll see how much clay we can get whilst getting all the other items required to make the extra miners and the extra scaffolding. So the chat has pointed out to me here, whilst I've been constructing my base painstakingly with these stickiest sticks that only place down 3 blocks at a time, it turns out you can buy the diamond construction stick from the catalog. It does cost 16 tech bucks, but I think that is a price that I am willing to pay because it's going to make it way easier for us to place down all of these. Up until now, I've been using these sticks that put down 3 at a time, and I've had to do something like this where you put 3 down and then you kind of move to the side and you do this to put them all down 1 at a time. Of course, with the diamond stick, we can very quickly put down all of the dark oak that we have, and it's just going to make life a whole heck of a lot easier. We also, of course, do have a ton of dark oak over in here because our cloche has been whirring away in the background. And so just going forward, especially given how much space we're going to need with all of these large multi-blocks, having this diamond stick that does have a pretty good durability is going to make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier. So we have our second basic miner here. This one we're going to use to create regular stone. And as mentioned in the quest book back at the very beginning of the episode, these multi-block machines can share scaffolding. What that means is that when we're building the next multi-block structure, we can actually use the pre-existing structure as kind of the edge of that structure. So this is going to be the left-hand side of this multi-block. So we don't have to fully recreate it, and it is actually a little cheaper to make the second one. It requires slightly less scaffolding, and of course we do have all of the stone required here. We also, of course, have our diamond wand now, so we should be able to do something like this. Very quickly place down all of the stone, and then just like before, if we place our basic miner at the front, we're going to see a tick in the top right if I've built that correctly, which I have not. I need to put down one more scaffolding right at the back, like that, and boom, we're generating stone passively. Nice. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing again, and we're going to continue building all the way out for the gravel, sand, clay, and grout. And a lot of cobblestone later, we now have the skeleton, at least, of 6 tier 1 miners. We should have almost all of the resources to place into those miners as well. We've got more than 36 gravel in here. If we grab some of our cobblestone, we can, of course, very quickly turn that into gravel as well, because we're then going to take that gravel and turn at least 36 of it into sand, like that. Over here, I have processed even more dirt into clay to the point where I think we should have enough clay to make this happen. We're at 33 out of 36. Never mind, we have extra in our chest here. That is fantastic. And then it actually turns out we already had enough grout as well. So now we can take all of this over here, and using our diamond construction stick, we should be able to throw all of those down nice and quickly. So let's throw down some gravel. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll throw down the sand in the same fashion. Then we'll do clay right about here. And then finally, we will do the grout. Nice. We should then be able to potentially just kind of climb up. The scaffolding is climbable, by the way. And so up here, we should be able to start placing all of these down. Fantastic. And as we get all of these placed down, that should bring each and every one of these miners online. And we should now be automatically producing gravel, sand, clay, grout, stone, and cobblestone, which I think is going to make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier next episode when we start to look at using all of these resources to automate basic Technium, because that, of course, is what we're working towards here. If we look at the recipe for the basic Technium, it requires stone gears, black bricks, copper rods, mini coal, copper ingots, flint, glass, leather, and treated wooden planks. And if I'm not mistaken, all of these can be automated by the time we get to this quest, which we're not too far away from. We've almost completed the melting quest line. Once we complete these quests down here related to the coke oven, that's going to unlock this quest here for flint. And from there, we're not too far away from that basic Technium. So next time we'll come back and look at automating that. Real quick, over here, one thing we did find out is that you can smelt cobblestone directly into smooth stone inside of the blast furnace. Not only is this faster than smelting inside of a regular furnace, which normally takes 10 seconds, but it actually skips out the middleman of getting regular stone and then smelting that into smooth stone. So previously it was taking us 20 seconds to turn one cobblestone into one smooth stone. Over here, it takes a quarter of the time, only 5 seconds to turn cobblestone directly into smooth stone, which is way faster. And then finally, one little piece of information that was given to me by the Twitch chat is that if we place leaves right about here, and I guess eventually here, right now we don't have a strainer here, but we can put the leaf there nonetheless, that waterlogs the water itself and prevents it from flowing out. So if we were to quickly grab another cobblestone pickaxe, because we've used all of ours to make all of those miners, we should be able to get rid of these slabs here, and the water remains above the strainer. And we did test it. The strainer does still work with the leaf placed above it like this. And so that's just going to make things look a little bit nicer going forward. And it makes it a little easier for us to get around the strainer. Nice. So like I said, next time we'll come back, we will continue working on here, and we will get some actual automation up and running. We can start using the mechanism pipes that we mentioned earlier to move the fluids, like the water, from the ambient water collector automatically. I also think we're going to start generating lava next episode as well, and we can use the logistical pipes to start moving things like the cobblestone, the stone, the gravel, the sand, etc. to where they need to go, so we can start to really automate the production of some of these resources. But for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Techopolis 3 there.